Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart. Another great conversation for you today. And again, if in the event that you hear some noise in the background, whether it be a little wind, I apologize. I'm shooting at my farm today. You might also hear some chickens, maybe some dogs, maybe even some geese. Anyways, great conversation for you today. And I'm going to combine a couple things for you today. A little bit of a clinical insight, which you're not familiar with those. I will share with you some of the things that I experience in clinic, the conversations that we have that I think will be very valuable for all of us to hear. Today's podcast is going to lean in the direction of talking about hormones, especially for females and especially for our teenagers. This applies to everyone who's still cycling, yet very specifically for the young people. I want you to hear this out, especially when it comes down, should we test young females, 21 and under type, should we be testing them for their hormones? For that matter, 30 and under. All right, with that being said, welcome back. Appreciate you being here and keep doing your thing. Keep sharing it out. Keep spreading the love. Great conversation for you today on a couple different angles. And I'm going to give you three very, very practical herbs and vitamins that you can use if you're experiencing some hormonal imbalances. So just a quick reminder, when it comes to hormone imbalances, too often, I think we learn about hormones the wrong way, and we think that when there's imbalance in our symptoms in our lives, and we're not feeling good or emotionally we're off, we immediately go, oh, it must be because my hormones are off. Now, hormones are never the cause. They may be involved, but it's not the root cause. And today, hopefully, I'll do my best to help you understand that. And by becoming a great listener to the human body, to your body specifically, is often a big part of how you're going to end up healing and down the road here. So there's a lot of power in being able to listen to our bodies, and keep this in mind. Our bodies are never wrong. They're never lying to us. The longer we can go and the better we can figure out how not to tell them to shut up and to honor and listen and obey them and help create a path that's a little bit healthier. That's the direction we want to go. So with that being said, let me give you a clinical insight. Last week when I was in clinic, I had a young girl and her mother come in. I was seeing the young girl, 13, 14 years old, and the mom shared with me that they did some hormone testing recently and her hormones were really off. My first question is, can you please share with me why you decided to take the hormone test? She said, yes, she just wasn't acting herself. All right, folks, so right away I'll tell you this. It's not because her hormones are off. It's because something in her lifestyle is creating a situation for her not to be well. And that is always the situation. Hormones are never the root cause. They could be potentially part of the problem, but it's always our lifestyle. Because what are we going to do? We're going to put a 13-year-old, 14-year-old girl on hormone replacement therapy? And the answer is absolutely, positively no way. So I did then recommend, so what did the doctor recommend for you to do? So I want to know where they stand with their education here and what's going through their mind of how they're going to fix this incredible, healthy young human being, 13, 14 years old. So the mom, and then before she answered, she said, well, the doctor recommended, and I said, let me guess. And the guess was that they recommended birth control pill. And she goes, how'd you know? And I said, that's what's always recommended. And I tell you this, I'm not going to tell her to be on a drug or not, but I highly, strongly recommend everyone listen to this. Do not put your young people on, or anyone for that matter, on birth control to try to fix a hormone problem. That's not the root cause of it. Can it make you believe or pretend that you fix the problem? It can. It absolutely does sometimes. It can. And really what it does is it ignores what the human body is trying to express. So really basically telling your body a big shut up, I don't want to listen to you, you're wrong, and we're going to make this drug manipulate how our hormones are working. That's exactly what it is. It's hormone manipulation, especially at a young age, trying to essentially fool in the body to believe that it's in a menopausal state so it has no symptoms. And quite frankly, we now know 100%, no doubt about it, that they have long-term detrimental effects on female reproductive health when we go on the pill, especially that early, 13, 14 years old. All right, that being said, so a great conversation with the mother. She was totally on board. So what are the things we can do? And that's the question we got to ask. So today I'm kind of dedicating this podcast to what else can we do if we do have hormone imbalances, because I've seen more young females with hormone imbalances than I've ever seen in my career, literally in this last 3 or 4 years. And I've discussed this ever since, I believe, since the whole COVID thing and the increased amount of stress and isolations that we saw. I've seen more young people with hormone imbalances than I've ever seen in my other 25 years of my career. So with that being said, we're going to do a little deep dive now, and I'm going to get specific here. And I'm also going to give you 3 different options. 2 of them are herbs, and one is really more of a nutrient that are phenomenal when it comes to helping hormone imbalances. So Anyone who is still a cycling female, listen closely, because these are absolutely going to be phenomenal. So you could be a teenager, you can be in your 40s, whatever it may be. This is going to be great, great options for you. So first situation I want you to kind of be privy to is for everyone who has what I'll call PMS symptoms right before their cycle. They have different symptoms, and those symptoms could be change in mood, discomfort, lethargy, any kind of symptoms that we notice there's a noticeable change in how you feel and how you're thinking. So you might be a little bit more melancholic, you might be more anxious, you might be a little more depressed, any of the above there. Those are not normal. They are ways that your body gives you symptoms to tell you that something's not in harmony with way things are working right now. So typically what'll happen in those higher states of PMS, you might get a little bit of acne. All those things apply under this window right now. Typically what that means is that you're experiencing a little what we call estrogen dominance. Technically we call this your luteal phase, you might call it, and this is where progesterone should be increasing right before you have your period. And oftentimes it doesn't increase because we've had too much stress. And those stressors, again, could be multiple reasons. They could be physical. They could be maybe you're a young athlete and you're working all month long. You're not slowing down during that phase right there. And it could be nutritional. It just could be poor food. I always throw that in there because our food chemistry, what we put into our body, is going to drive our hormones probably as significant others. And then there's also the emotional things. We could be on sitting in our beds on our phones and whatnot. They're definitely going to influence and drive the way that your hormones are working. So with that being said, if you notice any of that, there's an amazing herb that I would literally recommend for all cycling women. You would all benefit from this herb, and it's something that I called Chaste Tree. I don't call it that, but it's what it is. It's called Chaste Tree. This herb has been around for literally probably hundreds, thousands of years of helping women balance their hormones naturally. And what does it technically do? The beauty is, so you take this thing, you take Chaste Tree first thing in the morning, usually about 2 in the morning for first thing in the morning for about 30 days, and then moving it. Often once you start to balance things out, you might just take one first thing in the morning, and I'll make sure it's in the show notes here. So Chaste Tree will help your body naturally, not drive it up, not manipulate it. It's not exogenous hormones or anything, but it'll help your body naturally produce progesterone. And more often than not, PMS symptoms are a result of an imbalance of progesterone and estrogen. And typically it's an estrogen dominant state. Doesn't necessarily mean that your estrogen is always going to be high, but it might be. But it could also be with a relationship that your estrogen is normal, but your progesterone is low. And that occurs probably as frequently as anything that I see as a result of stress. The more stress that you have from any level, physical, mental, or chemical, it inhibits, well, really what happens is it's not uncommon that your stress hormones start to steal your sex hormones, particularly progesterone. So that is where one of the hormone imbalances happen. And again, back to testing. Do we want to test our teenagers? No. Why? Here's a simple reason why. This could go for every adult as well. Once we test someone, it is very, very difficult because all lab tests are a little scary. It's very, very difficult that once you get that label, you're low in this, you have hypothyroidism, you have low progesterone, your hormones are at zero. Whatever the labeling is, it's hard to ever get rid of that. So I prefer we don't start to label our youth. They get enough challenges, enough issues that they have going on. So let's just look at the lifestyle and look at the opportunity to listen to the body and then apply the tools that help the body function better. This is no different than building a house, right? If you got things are crooked, go get a level. If you need a bigger hammer, go get a bigger hammer. But nonetheless, let's listen to the body and help the body overcome what it's trying to talk to you about instead of just telling them to shut up. So Chaste Tree, all cycling women, typically 2 in the morning. Once you've been on it for a little bit, we start to notice a little bit of balance, especially with the PMS symptoms. Anything hormonal, folks, you have to be patient with. Typically, I recommend at least 30 days, but really to really incorporate change with the hormones, because they are on cycles, you need 90 to 120 days to really give anything that you're doing an opportunity to do its job the best. All right, so that's number one. In the event that you're experiencing a little bit different, this is going to be mid-month, somewhere right around ovulation, where it might be days 12 through, we'll just call it 15 or 16. Everyone's going to be a little bit different there. In the event that your hormones could become out of balance there and you start to recognize, especially emotional imbalances, you're just easy to be triggered. You have highs, you have lows, you have anxiousness, you're edgy with your parents, you're edgy with your spouses, your boyfriends, whatever it may be. You just know that you're just not acting at your best, especially this symptom here. In the event that you know during that phase, it is easy for you to cry, that tells me there's dysregulation in something called your hypothalamus gland, really your HP axis, your hypothalamus pituitary axis. And what does that mean? The hypothalamus literally is, it's a little gland up in the middle of your forehead, almost between your eyes there. That gland is responsible. It is the mother of all of your hormones. And if that is dysregulated, then all of a sudden you're going to have highs and lows that you typically are just not you. So is this a hormonal issue? No, this is a dysregulation issue. So for this situation, I use something very specific called Hypothalmx. This has done incredible changes for so many of my clients over the years. And all we're going to do is we're going to take 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, or 3 right before bed. Do this for at least 30 days. The beauty in this one, often within a couple days, if not a couple weeks, you start to recognize that you're just not as symptomatic when it comes to change of emotions. And I'm kind of talking about, you just know you're not you. You get triggered by your brother, your sister, your spouse, your friends. Everything seems to bother you. You're watching a commercial with this nice little puppy dog, and it's kind of heartfelt and sad. Next thing you know, you got little tears in your eyes. That's one of the ways. And listen, guys, this applies to you as well. We're not off the hook on this. Most guys aren't going to ever say, man, I find myself crying easy. Yet, I will tell you from personal experience, and sometimes I laugh at myself. I'll be watching a commercial, and all of a sudden, boom, I notice these symptoms showing up. And it's not that I'm sad, but I recognize there might be these moments that take place. And then I use Hypothalmx, a couple days, a couple weeks, and all of a sudden, it just balances back out. A good question would be, how does this happen? How does this dysregulation happen? And this can happen for many reasons, but usually there is an initial sensitizing moment where something has stressed you out. It could be you could be an athlete and you got crushed on the field. You had some type of physical stressor. You got plowed over or something like that. You could have a car accident, but it also could be other stressors. You could have been completely out of balance and too much sugar for a couple of days, and it dysregulated how your thermostat, how your hypothalamus gland is communicating with your hormones. It could be you're on your phone too much. It could be anything, but usually there is an initial sensitizing moment. Something else tragic happened. Maybe someone passed away. Maybe you all moved. Maybe you changed schools. Maybe you just started school. Usually there's a moment that starts it, and then over time, it just kind of compounds into this very, very sensitive moment. Often you'll see this exasperated right around ovulation, yet it can happen all month long. So these symptoms apply to you at all. Hypothalmx becomes your best friend. It is safe and gentle, and often 30 days into it, you're able to wean off or not take it again. And now you have another understanding. Now we become a little empowered that, yeah, some things may change in my body and how my body responds or how I act down the road. And if I listen closely and apply the right tools, I can fix these things. I want to give one more, which I think is one of my favorite herbs, especially when it comes to general well-being and hormone imbalances. So in the event that you wake up and you immediately, on a short period of time, you start to experience a sense of anxiousness, a sense of kind of wired up, and or if you notice that you are someone that's very sensitive with caffeine, you can take a certain amount, but man, you cross that bridge too much, and all of a sudden you have this physiological effect as if you're almost like fight or flight, and you're stuck in a little like an anxious mode. If that's you, there's an herb out there that would serve you well. It's called ashwagandha. I use a particular type of ashwagandha called Ashwagandha Forte, and clinically it is phenomenal. Same thing, we're going to take it first thing in the morning. Here's the benefits of ashwagandha. It really helps a lot, and specifically your thyroid, helps regulate thyroid function, helps increase testosterone for those who have decreased testosterone, and it also balances high cortisols. For those of you who wake up and you have like this almost like real short period of time where all of a sudden you get this anxious feeling, most likely you're staying in fight or flight too long and you have too high of cortisol in the morning, and ashwagandha is an absolute home run for it. Now, I just mentioned 3 things. Chaste Tree, you might have had all those symptoms, PMS before your period. You might have dysregulation in your hypothalamus gland as a result, and now you notice that you cry easy, you're on edge, you're sharp with people, even people you love and care about. You're like, whoa, I was a little tough right there. And you may have things where you get a little bit anxious first thing in the morning. Sometimes I use all 3. If these are the tools that help you become the better version of yourself, awesome. So I'll make sure they're all in your in the show notes here today. So my point of this podcast today is to give you an opportunity to do a couple things. One, just kind of a side note here, I'm not a huge fan of testing teenagers, because we start labeling them. And if you're working with a practitioner who's very conscious and understands the power of labels and the power of words, awesome. And then maybe there's some deep dives you can do there, or if those lab tests are what you need to then get yourself back into a situation of looking at lifestyle, awesome. But let's not look for the answer from the outside in. There's nothing wrong with the hormones. We drive our hormones to be imbalanced, period. There's never, your body says, oh, I'm going to stop making progesterone today. It doesn't work that way. We have a lifestyle that may be driving it into that direction. So that's number one. And then the second part is this: the more we allow ourselves to listen to our body and not argue with it, not fight with it, and not trying to always shut it up, that's how we get to the root cause, and that is how we help our bodies heal from the inside out. With that being said, these three herbs, Ashwagandha Forte, Chaste Tree, and the other one's not an herb, but it's a nutrient called Hypothalmx. Man, when it comes to hormone imbalance, these have been home runs clinically for me over many, many years here. So hopefully this has helped you in some way to, if nothing else, shed light on the fact that there are symptoms that our body has, that yes, there could be hormone imbalances, but it doesn't mean something's wrong with you. Rather, there's some actions that we need to do to improve from the inside out, and our bodies can function at a better and a higher level. All right, with that being said, keep doing your thing. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. We'll see you again in the next episode.